Under the sea, under the sea. Good day to all of you. We are Group 1. I am Kerwyne Quilang, together with Cleoford Alvarez, Mario Lopez, Clyde Bawagan, Dave Sabas, Zean Martin, Dhesiree Galope, Llyah Barnal, and Janelle Macugay. And today we are going to present to you our oral presentation on the discussion of Boyle's Law's application in deep sea diving. This is our discussion points: deep sea diving and the landscape of the sea, Boyle's Law, water depth and deep sea diving, pressure's effect on body under the sea, common injuries in deep sea diving and safety guidelines in deep sea diving. Deep sea diving and the landscape of the sea.
What is deep sea diving? Deep sea diving is an underwater human activity that interacts with nature. According to Crowley 2021, divers who dive past 60 feet or 18 meters is considered as deep diving, wherein only those associated with professional training are allowed by the authority, as divers get much vulnerable to hazard and risk as they go underwater.
The two main types of the divers are scuba diver and free diver. Scuba is an acronym for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Basically, scuba divers swim underneath the water with equipment, specifically breathing gas, because scuba divers spend more time underwater than free divers. A free diver or skin diver is a diver who does not use any breathing equipment or air supply and depends on only holding their breath while sinking into the waters.
There are three depth zones of the sea. These are diaphotic, dysphotic, and aphotic. First is diaphotic zone, or also called as sunlight zone. It is the upper 200 meters or 656 feet of the sea wherein the sunlight penetrates on the ocean where photosynthesis occurs. This is the zone where deep sea divers usually swim. Second is the dysphotic zone or twilight zone. It is the area of the ocean between 200 meters and 1,000 meters or 656 feet to 3,280 feet. Unlike the aphotic zone, plants rarely survive in this area of the sea due to the insufficient amount of light that penetrates from the sun. The density of this zone is higher than at the surface. This is the zone that divers rarely reach. Third is the aphotic zone. It is below 1,000 meters or 3,280 feet. This is the midnight zone of the sea as it does not penetrate sunlight. The only source of light is generated by organisms underneath. This is the zone that free divers do not reach.
Boyle's Law, water depth and deep sea diving.
Boyle's law states that at a constant temperature and fixed amount of gas, the volume of gas is inversely proportional to its pressure. It means that if the pressure increases, the volume decreases and vice versa. Pressure is a measure of how much force is acting on an area, while volume refers to the amount of space the object takes up. When pressure increases, it pushes gas atoms together, reducing volume and causing the same number of atoms to occupy a smaller space, making the gas compressed and denser. It is involved in the descent or when the divers go deep down to the water. On the other hand, when the volume increases, it means that the pressure reduces, making gas atoms move away from one another, making it less compressed and less dense.
At sea level, the standard constant value for atmospheric pressure is 1 atmosphere, which is equal to 760 torr or 29.92 inches of mercury. The rule of thumb underwater is that every 10 meters you go down is another atmospheric pressure. Simply, as you go down, the greater the pressure affecting you. This is because as water above you gets much denser, a higher pressure would affect your body. Identified by the Down to Scuba, 20 meters is the suggested diving depth for beginners, while 40 meters is the recommended maximum depth limit to recreational diving, and 60 meters and downwards for technical diving or diving that exceeds the specified limits.
This data of depth in meters on the right side are from the Professional Association of Diving Instructors. We have 7 data from multiplies of 10. We arrange it to descending order if we are going to integrate measures of positions and get the quartiles. These are the following formulas. For quartile number 1, we are going to multiply 1 over 4 to the total number of data plus 1. Since the number of our data is 7, we are going to substitute 7 to n. The results in quartile number 1 is 2, which means data number 2 is our first quartile with a value of 20 meters. This process is the same for the other quartiles, varying only to the formula used. Apply the formula for quartile number 2, we would get 4, which means data number 4 with a 40 meter value is at the midway of all the data. For quartile number 3, we would get 6. The sixth data has a value of 60 meters.
This table shows the relative values of water depth in feet. We have the pressure, volume, and density. For our first quartile, it means that 25% of the data are lower than or equal the values relative to 20 meters depth. It means that the pressure is below or equal to 3 atmosphere, and the volume is 1/3 or below, and the density is times 3 or below.
For our second quartile, it means that 50% of the data are lower than or equal the values relative to 40 meters depth. It means that pressure is below or equal to 5 atmosphere, and the gas volume is 1/5 or below, and the density is 5
For our
times
third
or below.
quartile, it means that 75% of the data are lower than or equal the values relative to 70 meters depth. It means that pressure is below or equal to 7 atmosphere, and the gas volume is 1/7 or below, and the density is times 7 or below.
Let's apply these to an example. When a diver is at the surface level, all conditions are equal or normal. While the diver descends from 0 meters, the pressure is 1 atmosphere, and the volume of his lungs is 6 liters. When he goes deeper, at 20 meters, his lungs volume changed to 2 liters. Now, what is the pressure at 20 meters? Our given is initial pressure of 1 atmosphere and a volume of 6 liters. The final volume is 2 liters, and we need to find the final pressure. The standard formula for Boyle's law is P1V1 is equal to P2V2, or the initial pressure times the initial volume is equal to the final pressure times the final volume. But since we need to find the final pressure, we will use final pressure is equal to P1 times V1 divided by V2, or the final volume. If we substitute the given, we will have an answer of 3. Therefore, 3 atmospheres of pressure is affecting the volume of the diver's lungs at the depth of 20 meters.
The effect of pressure on the body under the sea. First, in terms of equalization of gas molecules in the body, it is difficult to equalize gas in the body since pressure and gas volume varies according to Boyle's law. Pressure has no effect on the parts of the body where there is no air, but it affects the gas in body's airspace, such as in the lungs, intestines, middle ear. As mentioned earlier, when a diver descends to the ocean, the pressure surrounding is greater, causing air molecules to compress delicate membranes, such as the eardrums, can be drawn into this airspace, causing pain and injury. Another pressure decompresses air in the body airspace. When ascending, the compressed and molecules decompress. That is why it is important to exhale when rising to the surface. If this is not done, the air gaps in the ears and lungs, as well as the nitrogen molecules in the body tissue, expand, causing injuries such as decompressions, sickness, pulmonary barotrauma, or reverse block. In the worst case situation, a diver's lungs or eardrums could be ruptured.
Second, in terms of body buoyancy, we apply Boyle's law, and meaning that as the volume of the air inside the body reduces, we become less buoyant or negatively buoyant. In opposite, less pressure expanding the air makes the diver positively buoyant and begin to float up.
And third, in terms of bottom time, or the amount of time a diver can stay underwater, the higher the pressure, both air consumption and nitrogen absorption increases, the bottom time reduces. For example, at 20 meters deep, our air consumption is doubled and our absorption of nitrogen is doubled, making our time underwater half.
This effect in human body is the reason why, according to the professional diver, Llyah in 2015 and the Philippine Commissions on Sport Scuba Diving, the maximum depth limit in recreational diving is 40 meters or 130 feet.
The common injuries and conditions in deep sea diving according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Ear barotrauma. Ear barotrauma is the most common deep sea diving injury. Pressure discrepancies between the interior and outside of the ear produce this ear damage. It can cause discomfort and in some cases permanent hearing loss. Second is nitrogen narcosis. When scuba divers breathe compressed inert gases from tanks, it causes nitrogen narcosis, also called depth intoxication, which may change in consciousness, neuromuscular function, and behavior resulting to confusion and poor judgment.
Third, shallow water blackout. Shallow water blackout is a loss of consciousness that occurs near the end of a breath, hold dive in a shallow water due to cerebral hypoxia, or when the brain doesn't get enough oxygen. Arterial gas embolism. Gas can enter arterial blood through ruptured pulmonary capillaries and spread bubbles throughout the body, including the heart and brain, disrupting the circulation and damaging vessel walls.
Safety guidelines in deep sea diving.
In deep sea diving, the following safety guidelines and tips based from the Philippine Commission on Sports Scuba Diving must be considered. First, be knowledgeable and have proper orientation from experts. When you are a beginner in sea diving, it is better to learn from professional divers. Have time to research about sea diving and understand the application of Boyle's law to prevent injuries and other potential hazards. It is also important to know the basic equipment to use. As a diver, ensure that you have sufficient information or background in what scuba diving is all about before diving into the water. You need to have a clear understanding on what you should do and not, as well as what to wear and use proper equipment.
Second, check your condition. Check your body weight. Do not be anxious. Have a sufficient rest before diving. And lastly, never dive if you have cold or if your ears or nose are congested. Third, inspect your diving equipment. Check your equipment carefully. Check if there is enough oxygen in your tank. And lastly, make sure that you have all the sufficient equipment.
Fourth, know and inspect the area. Search the location where you will dive. Check weather updates. Beware of dangers. Learn which fish, coral, and other hazards you should avoid to prevent injury. Be aware of local tides, and also, it is best if you have a buddy to dive with.
To recap, deep sea diving is about exploring the deep parts of the sea. We have identified two types of divers, the scuba divers and the free divers. Scuba divers are the one who uses breathing equipment, while free divers do not use one. We have also identified the three zones of sea depth, which are the euphotic, dysphotic, and aphotic. We have also learned about Boyle's law, which explains how pressure and volume change underwater. As you go deeper, pressure increases. We have also integrated our topic in mathematics, which is measures of position, wherein we identified from the given data that the first quartile is the 20 meters, and the second quartile is the 40 meters, and the third quartile is the 60 meters. We have also learned how pressure affects our body. Air spaces in the body are subjected to pressure and volume change. Common injuries occur because of pressure and varied water depth. And lastly, the most important lesson is to never hold your breath when ascending to the surface of the water. Our key takeaway in this discussion is that diving is not a gift, but a skill that can be enhanced through knowledge and practices. Through knowledge, as we have come to know what Boyle's law means, and through practice as we apply these learnings. I hope that you have learned well and that you may apply all these learnings into your summer vacation. Happy deep sea diving! Under the sea, under the sea.